Hello everyone, this is Darko 2012 with Global Government News, and I'll be covering hopefully two articles if I have the time. Um, but basically, this is a Al Jazeera article, and it was much better. It's covering the surplus of H1N1 vaccines that were planned to be, uh, you know, distributed on a massive scale, right? Where they were gonna possibly people worried about forced vaccinations and that, and everybody was gonna get it, and it turned out that a lot of people ended up not even wanting it, right? Because number one, it wasn't first. There was a lot of people that were telling people not to take it because of not that it was gonna kill you, but that it just wasn't necessarily safe, and the and people kind of realized, after a couple months in the fall, just ordinary people that didn't know about the whole eugenics operation and the WHO and how corrupt it is and what their real intentions are as far as population control go. Um, they even started to realize and wake up and see that this thing was a big scam. It wasn't just a profiting scam, but it was also a eugenics scam. And and so, they realized that, taking these shots, really wasn't worth it because the flu itself wasn't that bad, the man-made, lab-made flu. And so now they got all these developed nations have all these extra vaccines, and there's all kinds of reasons for it. The reasons that I'm reading in these articles, a lot of them are propaganda. That's why I'm actually reading from Al Jazeera because it's more objective than Reuters in the article that I originally read about these vaccines being sold off by developed nations to undeveloped nations. But they were saying that there was extra stockpiles of vaccines because originally there were supposed to be two shots per person, and then once like I say, once people started waking up to the scam, they started saying, you know what, no, F off, I'm not taking two vaccines. And what did they do? They said, oh, the front of the line, pregnant women and children. It's like, what are you talking about, right? And then the old people who they actually ended up dying the most, the old people, because they told them that they didn't need the shots. And they went after to what? Pregnant women and children were in the front of the line, and healthcare workers, anyone that they can literally force, right? Because if you're a government worker, you have to take it. So I mean, you can just kind of see on the surface there from me explaining it like the way I did that it is a eugenics front. It is a eugenics operation. And so where are all these extra vaccines going to go? Well, they're going to third world nations. They're going to developed nations, right? And these companies, these pharmaceutical companies, not only were they not liable, right? Because they used the government and the WHO, the world government, World Health Organization, and the all the like the U.S. CDC Central for Disease Control, Center for Disease and Control. They used them to trump up the fear and use the media and that to get everybody hype up the fear and get everybody scared and panicked, so that they can legitimize it the raise pandemic flu levels. So that's why we were at pandemic level 6. And what that did is it made these pharmaceutical companies not liable for any side effects of the vaccines that you may have even down the road. So when it comes down, a couple months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years from now, and people start having effects from these H1N1 vaccines, none of these companies, these pharmaceutical companies, are going to be liable for it because it was during a raised pandemic level, which that's what I'm saying. It was never really that bad to begin with, but they had to make it out to be so that they wouldn't be liable. But yeah, but now these companies, they don't. It's not like they're gonna eat the bill. They're not gonna just. They didn't produce all these vaccines and sell them to the governments, the major governments around the world, at the expense of test subjects, right? The taxpayers, right? We paid for our own inoculation, our own slow cancer death. But when the sheeple said no, we're not sticking ourselves with two of them. We don't even want one of them. What do? They say, oh, okay, well, we're still going to get our money out of this. And so now, because we woke up and we didn't want to be treated like cattle, right? Now they're gonna take these vaccines, and they gotta there's a little market now where all these H1N vaccines that weren't used, now they gotta bid and sell them to these underdeveloped nations, and carry out eugenics on them. And hopefully they don't take it, but I'm sorry, but like in those countries, you know, they don't have as much internet, and they don't have that buzz that was going on around that was surrounding the H1N1 uh, kind of fluke scare that was going on at the time in this fall 2009, with that media blitz and that. And there was a lot of people that were waking up and that were making videos and telling people not to take their shot. And so in these third world countries, they're not going to get that. They're not going to get that type of They're not going to have that type of awareness. But so they're just going to be test subjects like we were supposed to be. But let me get more into this article here. It says France has joined the other European countries in selling off millions of its emergency H1N1 vaccines after buying far more than needed to fight the outbreak. It says the health ministry had originally bought 94 million individual vaccination shots against the virus at a cost of 1.2 billion, thinking that everyone would need two jabs for the immunity against the illness. And it says we started with a plan for two-dose vaccinations, but since one dose is sufficient, we can start to resell part of the stock. French health ministry. So there you go. There's your excuse as far as the two-dose. That's why people, because people like roundly rejected it. It's because because we were supposed to have two shots, and that we didn't. We didn't need to. And then if you go down here, it says the 94 million doses were equivalent to almost 1.5 for everyone in France, but so far only about 5 million people are recorded as having been vaccinated since the program launched. So they tell you right there that a lot of people didn't even take it. And here we go. The health ministry said Qatar and had already bought 300,000 doses, and Egypt was negotiating to buy 2 million. It says we are in contact with other countries, notably Ukraine, Mexico, and the ministry. And then I found this article by the Canadian Press, and it was 6 days ago, which would have been the January 6th, 2010. And when you look here, it says what are these other countries that are going to get the vaccine? Here are three countries: Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, and Mongolia are set to receive the first deliveries of donated vaccines this week and next week. So, yeah, some of them are going to be donated. But I was just reading an article where it said they're gonna, and the Reuters article, the propaganda, where they're gonna actually where they have a market of unused vaccines, which means that they're gonna sell them. So I'm a little skeptical on this word donated. I don't know if they're really donated, but moving down here is another good point. Was that this is their excuse, right? The vaccine proved difficult to make, which meant supplies arrived later than planners had hoped. And the fall wave started early, so by the time large amounts of vaccine were available, flu activity was nearing or past its peak in many places, contributing to a sense in some quarters that getting the vaccination was no longer necessary. And so yeah, you had the CDC, you had the WHO, and I mean it was right around this time that they were raising the pandemic level to 6, when people were like, "What the hell are you talking about? It's already we're hearing from different reports about it's already peaked." And then we still had a month left of propaganda after that, telling us how the big kill was coming, big death was coming, and so it was health officials and our government telling us that we needed these things, even though people were kind of like confused and saying no. But in this part right here, it says that they were difficult to make. Well, a lot of part of that was that they had made a lot of them with the mercury or thimerosal, and they ended up a lot of people didn't want it because, like I said, there was a mass awakening around this vaccination run up, and a lot of people didn't want it, so they actually had to make different ones, different vaccinations. One was the nasal one, and that was the good reason because a lot of people, especially children, are scared to get shots. So what did they do? This was like a kind of a gotcha, was that they made the aerosol stuff so young people aren't as scared to take it. And the other thing was that they started to make shots without the mercury in them. And so that's the shots that they were talking about. That's why it took longer.